Hello scholars, Captain Daniel Johnston here. In today's lesson, we're looking at the life of Prince Philip to discover more about the significance of followership. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Wait, this is supposed to be a leadership lesson. Why am I talking about followership? Followership is a concept that is hugely important to leaders, not just so they can understand how to set expectations for their people, but also for themselves. There are very few leaders who are not also followers. So part of effective followership is understanding and practicing active followership. Active followership is something more than just obeying orders. It is being a person who is relied on, listened to, and counseled with. An active follower is a person who is integral to the success of the organization. Before Philip Mountbatten was the Duke of Edinburgh and the Prince of the United Kingdom, he had a career as an officer in the Royal Navy. After distinguishing himself during World War II, he married his sweetheart, Princess Elizabeth, whom he had been riding throughout the war. 5 years into their marriage, Philip had risen to the rank of lieutenant commander. It was then that the health of King George, Elizabeth's father, took a turn for the worse, and it became clear he did not have long to live. This development made it clear that it was time for Philip's wife, Princess Elizabeth, to become Queen Elizabeth. And with that, both Philip's and Elizabeth's lives would forever change. Elizabeth's position was unique, even among royalty. Not only was she unusually young to take the throne, being only 26 at the time of her ascension, she was also the first queen who had to navigate the role of the monarchy in the modern era. This was evident by the fact that her coronation in 1953 was the first ever that was televised, drawing an audience of 27 million out of a population of 36 million, as well as another 11 million people who listened to it on the radio. All of the responsibilities that came with this new position would be difficult for Elizabeth to bear on her own. But she was not on her own. She always had Philip. Throughout these challenges, Philip was the Queen's greatest support and advisor through their 70 years of marriage. Charles Anson, the Queen's press secretary, described how Philip took an active role in the management of the Queen's duties. Sometimes when I went to see the Queen with a work matter, she'd say, "Have you talked to Prince Philip?" If I said, "Not yet," she'd say, "Run it past him," or "Talk to him about it." Queen Elizabeth was always the unquestioned leader. Philip's active followership never undermined Elizabeth or the authority that she held. In fact, quite the opposite. It propped her up and helped her be the leader the people needed. To be effective as an active follower, you have to be in support of the success of the organization as a whole, and not serving your own personal agenda. Those who choose to be an active follower versus self-serving followers will not only be part of a more effective organization, but also find more personal success. This shows with Philip, who despite the influence he held in the royal family, always respected his wife in the position that she held, assisting her by becoming a consistent and reliable figure to the British people, serving as her representative in over 22,000 royal engagements. What allowed Philip to be so effective as a follower and as a leader is that he understood who he was. He understood that his duty was first to his queen and her people, not to glorify himself. It is recorded that Philip would remind his children and his grandchildren of this by telling them, "It's a big mistake to think about yourself. No one is interested in you in the long run. Don't court popularity. It doesn't last. Remember that the attention comes because of the position you are privileged to hold, not because of who you are. If you think it's all about you, you'll never be happy." This commitment he showed was a clear indicator of the love and respect he had for both his wife, the Queen of England, and her people of the British Empire. It is clear that Prince Philip's 14 years of service as a naval officer prepared him to take on his duties as a duke and as a prince. He understood the simple fact that to be able to lead, you must be willing and able to follow. I want to talk about the two things that Philip showed that make up active followership: commitment and critical thinking. Let's understand what I mean by commitment. I do not mean that your current organization is your great passion. You know, the job you dreamed about doing ever since you were a child. I also don't mean that you're supposed to commit to staying there for the rest of your working life or even the long term. There are some of you who are working on your passion or do want to stay with your current organization long term. And that is great. I am genuinely happy for you. Prince Philip showed the rest of us that there is still no excuse for you not to adopt an attitude of commitment. This means that while you are there, your work is something you are taking seriously and personally. This trait is needed by anyone who seeks to be an active follower. The other factor of active followership is to be a critical thinker. Critical thinking is a phrase that is often used, but rarely defined. It is the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. What this means for your leader is that you are not a person that will only go as far as your instructions tell you, that they are able to put you in complex scenarios, and that you will be able to not only identify the problem, but also possible solutions. Much like strength or endurance training, the more you practice and build your active followership skills in your everyday life, the easier it will become. All right, scholars, I have a challenge for you from today's lesson. I want each of you to answer the question: in situations where you are the follower, do you hold yourself to the same standard that you hold your people to? What is that standard? Make sure that you put your answer in the comments so we can all learn from each other. All right, till next time, keep keep on learning. Thank you for watching. Much of what I go over in my lessons can be found in my book, Mission First, People Always, which is available for purchase through the link in the description of the video. If you enjoyed today's video and want to watch more leadership lessons, then make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.